Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Beluga the Yeagers, and today we're going to be reacting to another video. Now, this is from a friend of mine, Volucious, as I'm sure some of you may be familiar with him. Volucious is kind of interesting. So, he was disappointed with the ending, so he's an ending hater. Well, no, he prefers to be referred to as a plot chad. He's not really a good ending hater. There's a lot of nuance here. But the reason why this video is intriguing is because he's more of a fan of Hobo Eren, and Wolf for Parody Eren he was not a fan of. So he thought it went wrong in Wolf for Parody, not in the Marley Arc or 139 or Crying Over Mikas or whatever. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Also, by the way, on the sidebar here, I know it says that I haven't completed this video, the Invaders video. I assure you have watched this entire thing multiple times, so just so that no one gets any funny ideas. Alright, let's continue. So basically this is a reaction video. I know I didn't say that first. This is a reaction video to the downfall of Eren's character in Wolf Parody. I'm gonna have to speed this video up because it is 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's rewind time. Let's look at the ending of Attack on Titan and Eren's conclusion. I hope it's great.
Is this the right video?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
It is.
Introduction.
Attack on Titan is a story about morality, justice, freedom, and difficult choices. And yet, these themes have been barely conveyed at the end of the story, because the ending we got is
actually, okay, this is gonna get granular. Let's go back and see what he said.
Morality, justice.
So it's about
Attack on Titan is a story about morality,
justice,
freedom, and difficult choices.
Okay, difficult choices. Okay. While I can't entirely disagree, I'd say that morality and morality, yeah. Justice, not really a major theme. I don't know what, it seems like they're sub-themes. The freedom theme, that is definitely the main theme. It's kind of weird to mention those. So the reason why I'm saying this is, the reason why I'm nitpicking this is because saying it wasn't carried out in the final chapters. Well, yeah, it wasn't. Because those weren't the main themes. They were sub-themes. They were not that important to the main themes. So, let's continue.
And yet, these themes have been barely conveyed at the end of the story. Because the ending we got is a simple contradiction of Eren's entire journey thus far. His entire purpose in the manga has been demolished, and it feels disappointing that Eren's journey is not reflected upon these themes, but rather it's the side characters that he cares about, more than his own freedom.
Well... That's not entirely true. I mean, remember the whole 131 thing, right? Eren does indeed care about his freedom more than his friends, to his own detriment, of course. But like I continue to say with over and over again, the Grisha parallels, the Erwin parallels, and that video is coming soon, the Erwin video about the Return to Shiganshina video is coming soon. Erwin cared about the basement more than everyone else, right? We all know that. We all knew that. But that wasn't reflected in his final moments. What was reflected was something that was, well, two things. He cared about other people more than himself, side characters, you could say. I mean, yeah, side characters, because I mean, if Eren cares about side characters, then Erwin cares about side characters as well. But more importantly than the growth that the character achieves, Grisha achieves, Erwin achieves, because those are both people who cared about X thing more than, their freedom, more than other people. So those people to have grown, everyone appreciates that. When it's Eren, people don't appreciate that. I don't understand why. But besides the point of Eren growing as a character, and that growth should be celebrated, the fact is that Eren, depending on how you interpret it, either understood the true meaning of freedom, or he was actually free, like Erwin and Kenny were in 139. So to say that to say it as a criticism that he all of a sudden pivoted and cared about his friends more than his own personal freedom, I find to be ridiculous. Especially in the third thing. So two reasons: number one, it's growth. Number two, he did at least understand what actual freedom was. But number three is that he had this freedom, but it was at the detriment of himself. I want to bring again 133, right? He is shown as a child with his eyes shaded, right? Obviously symbolizing he's not free. Then he's shown with his eyes closed on what is widely interpreted to be puppet strings, right? And again, Eren regrets doing the rumbling in 139. So to me, to say the rumbling didn't make him happy in any way. It's not like, oh, he felt guilty about killing people. No, he didn't feel free. He didn't feel happy. There was nothing satisfactory about doing the rumbling for him. In fact, he regretted it. Which is another reason why I think AoE is weird, because if he regrets the rumbling in the manga timeline, why in the anime would he do it again? Strange question. But anyway, let's continue.
And that's why I'm making this video. My purpose is to explain why people find this character downgraded and ruined, but do not be mistaken. In this video, I want to be impartial and avoid taking any side. This is not just another video trying to tell you why chapter 139 is...
Yeah, he is like that for real though. He tries to make his videos very logical and concrete, and he doesn't like to he doesn't have a hate boner, basically. He's not a Titan folker, you know, just because there's a lot of politics when it comes to the Attack on Titan fan base, and you know, just because Velo hates the ending, it's important to understand that he's not as completely insane as, you know, Titan folkers are.
Bad, and if Isayama is just a bad writer himself, because Eren's problems are not exclusively related to the last chapter, but I believe those issues in the last chapter are the biggest ones, and I want to go deeper into that and explain where the fall of Eren's character originated from, and I want to convey why people feel this unpleasantness with Eren's character. Firstly, I will try to explain what made Eren likable. Then secondly, what made him so disappointing.
That should be interesting, because anytime I hear an hater say, oh, 131 was peak fiction, oh, Marley was peak fiction, I'm like, what do you mean it was peak? Why are you saying it's peak fiction? What do you mean it's good? Why do you think it's good? You shouldn't think it's good, right? You say, oh, Attack on Titan pre-time skip was amazing. Why was it amazing? I get, like, almost angry, because I'm like, okay, you don't like the ending, so, in the ending, executed on the themes of the story. So, what do you consider quote-unquote peak, and why does someone like you like Attack on Titan, right? So, and that's why, you know, as much as I absolutely hate and despise AOTNR, and everyone should despise AOTNR, it's good to get into their minds, get into their psyche, and see what exactly they thought Eren was, and to see how exactly they would have done it. And of course, as we've seen from AOTNR, it's a complete shitstorm. Excuse my language. It's completely trash. It's garbage. It's cringe. It's try-hard. It's very obvious teenagers wrote it. Yes, I know there are shamefully grown adults on the project. Those adults must have not had that much influence because it's very obvious written by a bunch of teenagers, which is quite disappointing. And that's one of the biggest things about the AOT fanbase, right? They're lazy and they're teenagers. Most of the AOT fans are teenagers who are lazy, so they don't want to think about the story too much. They want it to be understandable upon first reading, and they want it to be understandable within an hour of reading. And again, they're teenagers who, I mean, a whole host of problems with having teenagers as your main fan base. But so I would love to see. This is the part I'm interested in. I'd love to see why exactly what a person like him doesn't like, or Verity doesn't like the Rumbling Arc. What exactly to you made Eren appealing? So let's get into this.
And finally, I will talk about Isayama and the general perception of the community. With that in mind, before the video begins, I just want people to understand, this is purely my own subjective opinion about Eren's journey.
Oh, and yes, that's another thing about this guy. He likes to say that art's subjective, which, hey, if you believe that, I'm not going to argue with you. I just say I disagree. Art is not subjective, but he believes it's subjective, so.
Encourage people with different opinions than mine to be friendly and have a discussion here. So, with that said, this is the rise and fall of Eren Yeager's character.
Fall on one side is a segment of what the ending could have been about two people. It's about two people struggling in the world to find each other while it's knowing that they're It's bad fighting. I'm probably gonna have to skip this fourth too. We're gonna skip.
And special?
Eren Yeager used to be a special character to the audience. He would dare to fight his destiny and because of it grow into more mature character. And we can see his actual growth in the Marley Arc. It was always clear to the reader that Marley is the enemy, but once Eren and Reiner met up again, it made the audience doubt this whole idea of understanding what was really going on. Much like Eren himself, the world of Attack on Titan is cruel and very unforgiving place. For example, Reiner once did receive this wholesome message from Eren.
俺は頑張るしかねえ。頑張ってお前らができるだけ苦しんで死ぬように努力するよ。
This message clearly tells the audience how much Eren hates people stealing his freedom, but ironically, that fate made Eren to become the very same person as Reiner
Well,
wanted.
here's the thing that's compelling about Eren. That's why I like Eren. He doesn't like people who steal his freedom, yet he robs himself of his own. Right? Cautionary tale. And of course, we see this play out with people that we know in our own personal lives, which is why the show is compelling. That's why any defender likes it. Just put it out there. So why does a person? That's why I don't like. That's why I don't like. That's why the ending to me is fine. So what exactly is the difference between what's occurring in this guy's psyche?
Was. And what was incredible about Eren's journey is the fact that he was able to let go all of this hatred. This is Eren Yeager we're talking about. He was supposed to embody the theme of freedom by killing anyone who would dare to stand in his way. And he just casually let go of this ambition. This very moment spoke volumes for Eren's development. Eren did seem as someone almost entirely different as a person. He wasn't just some basic shonen tale main character like Deku from My Hero Academia. Oh no. Anyways, moving on. He was a person who was able to grow into a mature, sympathetic person. It was like the old Eren was dead and the new one was someone destined to fight. Not for this childish and abstract idea of freedom, but to protect those he cares about. He, as a person, managed to grow so much in the worst possible environment. And he did this very simply. He just embraced the fact that the true enemy isn't Reiner, Marley, or even the world. But rather to him, the real enemy is ignorance. And this moment of Eren just simply offering his hand to the person he used to hate more than anything else in this world was probably the most important thing that happened to his character. Because Eren...
Well, another thing... This conversation is important. However, it is widely misinterpreted by people. And again, I'm not pointing the finger this time, including me. I want you guys to understand. When I say you don't understand a story, that doesn't mean you're dumb or stupid. I'd say that everyone didn't understand a story upon first reading it. How could you even do such a thing? You have to be like a galaxy brain to understand the story. That aside, what made this scene a good scene was not what he just said about... I mean, yeah, it is about him, putting away the hatred, fighting for his freedom, people he protects, yada, 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 maturing to understand the world better. However, what's actually important about the scene is the fact that Eren is having this conversation with Reiner, and you can go reread it. This video's going to be a long video, so I'm going to keep it brief. But he says to Reiner, you do this because you have to save the world, right? You did it for a good cause. Reiner, so he gives him the pretext. So the pretext for the rumbling is, I'm doing this to save LD. A pretext for invading parody is, I'm doing it to save the world, right? So he gives him that excuse. But then Reiner can't take the guilt anymore because he knows that's not why he invaded Eldia. And he tells him his true reason. His true reason was a personal reason for self-actualization. He wanted to be a hero. And so at that point, Eren says that we really are the same, meaning the parody was just a pretext, right? That wasn't his true. I mean, it was, he did want to, but that wasn't his true motivations, and his true motivations get revealed in 131. That's the real, view of this conversation. He becomes, very sinister and very corrupted by his flaws. That's what happens with a negative character arc. A character gets, more and more and more and more and more corrupted as they go on. That's why I find this compelling. That's why I find this scene to be good. This scene is just misinterpreted, and therefore, if it's misinterpreted, when the ending executes on the actual interpretation, people say, it was retconned, it was changed. When in reality, you're just begging the question. You're just creating the begging the question fallacy, and then saying, the ending is bad. It's actually not the case.
Once was also ignorant, and he was no different from the people just simply defending themselves from the threat of mass genocide. And because Eren understands the state of the world, he knows there's no other choice left for him. This whole scenario simply highlights the fact that the fighting between people will never stop, And Eren isn't in the wrong to fight back either. After all, chapter 134 proves to us that Eren isn't necessarily meant to be seen as a villain or a monster, but
I can disagree here. Now, I think he's sort of simplifying it, and I'm going to continue to simplify because I'm not going to get into this whole discussion, but there's some merit to what he's saying here, yes.
rather he's a manifestation of ignorance, sins, evil, hatred, and everything else that makes people fight. And that's
I'm trying to find a way to say this that's in 134. See, the thing about Eren is that, again, he's not entirely in the wrong, and to be honest, some of these Marleyans did deserve the punishment that they got. Again, not everyone deserved to be rumbled, but there was some, and remember, Secretary Mueller saying this, who's a government official. So, sure, they deserve that punishment of death by the rumbling. And this is why the song Child of Evil says, what does it say? Inside, behind justice, right? Because the rumbling is, in a sense, justice. And that's why, also, again, if you don't like me using the songs, which do have importance to AOT, you could use the Hero's Dilemma, right? Would it be freedom or justice Eren sacrificed in the end? Which is so interesting because justice should coincide with freedom, right? Securing your rights should coincide with freedom, right? Why would justice be exclusive from freedom? I'm not going to get into that. However, what I can say is that, again, he sacrificed, very strong argument, you could say, he sacrificed justice of completing the rumbling for the sake of freedom. And the reason, simplest explanation, is he accepts the seashell in 139. So, again, if you have the questions, feel free to go in the comment section, right? But he sacrifices the justice, which, again, that's one of the things. One of the reasons why I say is that Isayama, the author, is sort of saying that there is a sense of justice or reasonableness to the rumbling in a sense. Again, this is just broad strokes. Don't quote me on this. I'm trying to keep this short.
And so
But yeah, I'm just confirming what Bella was saying prior.
Be predetermined, because his fight will not stop the same way wars in general do not stop. As long as one side feels those exact same feelings as Eren does, then the cycle of hatred will not stop as well, and that's the point of Eren's character. He is not someone who has a solution, nor he is someone that should be relied upon, but he is just a person who literally is trying to end the world instead of trying to fix it.
Eren is twisted nature.
Unfortunately, what I just described was just a one side to his character, and the other side to him is a selfish human nature, because there's no white or black in the world of Attack on Titan, and Eren has a darker side to him as well. And I believe the essence of Eren Yeager is a very tricky subject. He's someone who isn't trustworthy, and will do whatever it takes to achieve his goal, and it doesn't matter if it's for the greater good or to be seen as the villain. The true colors of Eren's character shines the most in chapter 131. There, he can be a very understanding person, one that can support natalism and hope for the best for the people around the world. For a quick moment, he can show sympathy to a stranger who seems to be pregnant, possibly because he doesn't wish her any harm, or how can he save a kid named Ramsey, even if he knows that he has to kill him eventually? It begs the question, why would someone like Eren rescue that kid if he will kill him anyway? And there's only two answers for that. It's either a predetermined destiny and Eren can do nothing about it, or perhaps he wants to feel good about himself, and he may have realized that what he's doing is simply wrong, but yet he's a completely selfish person. And I think the truth is more complicated than that. From chapter 1, it was clear as day that Eren's number one desire is freedom, and the story would showcase this numerous times, like how he wants to get rid of the walls, explore the outside world, not obey orders, and so on. All of this would be related to one thing. Eren
is sure as hell obeyed orders better than Mikasa.
is fundamentally a slave. Every single of his desires comes from the fact that he's no different from cattle, and Eren was always trying to reject this side of himself, push for the freedom, and eventually push himself to do whatever is necessary to achieve his goal. So the reason why he's rescuing Ramsey is because he wants to feel free. As Eren said himself, he's a piece of shit as a person. He's contradicting himself after all. Because what he
maybe he explains it more later, but that's wow, okay.
wants to do and what he thinks isn't always the same. The indication for that can be seen as Eren is slaughtering Ramsey whilst his consciousness is in the sky where he enjoys his selfish freedom as a child. So basically, Eren wants to believe that he was always free, but truth to be told, he was a slave, and that's why Eren is evoking.
The appealing idea of Eren.
Sadly, not everyone sees Eren the same way. I think a tiny portion of Attack on Titan fandom completely misunderstood his character.
Oh, tiny portion. I'd say about 95% of the people watching Attack on Titan to understand Eren's character. Fully, of course. As far as principally, again, this is very rough estimates with limited sample source, but I'd say, principally 60-70% of people understand Eren's character principally. It's not that much people. There's lots, millions and millions of people who don't understand Eren's character. Because, I mean, again, just the laziness aspect of it. You don't want to sit, you don't want to think about it. You just want to, you know, read the book, read the chapter, and go about your day. Read a chapter, watch anime music videos. Read a chapter, watch edits. You don't want to actually think about this for hours on end, like I did. But it shows. But yeah, I'm saying I agree with you on this.
These people are known as the Yeagerists. To put it shortly, they started to overhype Eren's character to extreme levels of psychological projection, meaning they were literally self-inserting into fictional character just because they didn't quite understand.
This is a giant problem with every single major character. You got people who, I mean, the Mikasa self-inserts are annoying, Eren self-inserts are annoying, the Flock self-inserts are annoying. It's such a... Because the thing is that when you project criticism onto a character, instead of projecting that criticism onto a character, since it's a self-insert, you're projecting criticism onto the person you're talking to. So if you're talking to a Mikasa stan and you say Mikasa's not empathetic, and they self-insert with Mikasa, you're not saying Mikasa's not empathetic, you're saying you're not empathetic. If I say Eren's a psychopath who killed people for no reason, well then, that doesn't mean Eren's a psychopath who killed people for no reason. That means you're a psychopath who killed people for no reason. So, yeah, Villa's right. There's a serious, serious problem with stans on both sides of the political divide over this. All three of them, actually. Even the AoE bros, too. Self-insert, 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 self-insert.
Understand the nature of Eren's selfishness and wrongdoings. I think it's part of the plan.
Exactly. That's why it's... If you have a conversation with Eren's self-insert, it's so hard to convince them that Eren has done anything wrong. Eren is a pure angel, a noble god from the sky, saving everyone so selflessly, blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing. It's easy. It's real easy to see Eren that way. Oh, he died for his friends. He bore the guilt for his friends. He did the wrong, blah, 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 blah. But if your perception is changed, or if evidence comes to you that should change your perspective, it should be easy for you to let go of your former beliefs. Like with me, I remember when I mean, since again I'm a Yeager, so I have the disposition. I think that Eren's a noble person. But when I was confronted with evidence, instead of saying, oh no, XYZ cope, I said, oh, cool, he's a bad guy then. I guess he's a bad guy. The reason why it's so easy for me to do that is because I don't self-insert into Eren. Talk to an Eren self-insert. You'll see. You'll see.
Just simply did not understand one important crucial detail about the story. And that detail tells us that Attack on Titan is fundamentally anti-genocide story, and therefore, these people created an illusion which convinced them into thinking that Eren's character is this unbreakable warrior who will never waver and he has a chat charisma about himself. Whilst the story was criticizing Eren's actions through characters like Armin and Hanji, I'd say that Isayama did not do good enough job to make everyone understand that Eren was wrong.
No. I mean, here's the thing. Isayama said it multiple times in interviews that Eren was wrong. He thoroughly rejected this idea. No, you guys are simply wrong. You guys are wrong. I mean, again, Eren. I mean, the dude. He says to Reiner, like, we're the same. Reiner was portrayed as a very evil person beforehand, and then he said, the dude says, "I am the bad guy," right? He says, "I'm the bad guy. It's fine. I just might destroy the entire world." There's no. I mean, Mikasa says, "You've killed children," right? And she looks at him, crying. She almost cried, or whatever. That's not him being portrayed as positive. When I read 131, I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, this is condoning genocide. This is great." No. This was very clearly, very, very, very clearly anti-genocide. And here's what I don't like. I'm glad this got brought up. People keep saying, "Oh, Isayama didn't do a good job enough with this. Isayama didn't do a good job enough with that." No. Blame yourself first. Isayama doesn't need to appeal to people who don't think. I've misinterpreted a bunch of scenes from Attack on Titan. A ton. I already named you one. I can name you another one. The Hanji jail scene. When he yells at Hanji when he's in prison. There's more. There's lots more. Well, 131 I misinterpreted. I never once said, "Oh, well, that's Isayama's fault. He didn't convey it properly." No, I go back and I say, well, why did I think otherwise beforehand? This was laid out. This was right there. How come I didn't That's the thing. You guys are prideful. You guys don't want to take responsibility. Like, you just misinterpreted the scene. It's fine. Happens all the time. Yet they insist on saying Isayama didn't convey it properly. So, no, I will rarely ever accept such a thing. If a character says or does something, and it could be interpreted either which way, even which it can't be. I mean, all the scenes are pretty clear, but even if it could be, I'm gonna tell Isayama over you guys. You guys are responsible to think for yourselves, right? So this thing where we say, oh, I mean, hey, Armin's line was bad. Isayama didn't convey it properly. No. You just didn't. You just don't understand what Armin's saying, and you're just not thinking. You just need to think. Just read it again, and read and see, figure it out.
Hard to blame the Yeagers for misunderstanding the story. After all, once Marley Arc concluded, the only hints we got about Eren was just how he wished to free Paradise from this conflict and that he values his friends the most in this world. It's completely understandable to think that.
Well, no, we got the fact that he was a very evil person who may have incited a global conflict for his own self-actualization. Now, I can already hear you guys screaming headcanon. Maybe the sparking global conflict thing is implied, but 131 shows you very clearly that he's wrong and he's evil. He's not excusing himself in 131. 131 is him saying, I am the bad guy and I am not going to stop. I know I'm doing this evil. I'm just going to do it anyway. Right? So, no, there wasn't just those qualities in him. And for the anime viewers, the guy is literally called the child of evil. He's literally called that. He says him and the devil have reached the same temperature, which again, I know as a whole, oh, he became a devil for parody, blah, 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 blah. But, no, Isayama portrays it quite clearly he's a bad guy. I mean, all of them are bad. That's why I made my Alliance video. He portrays all of them from top to bottom as bad. All of them. I mean, save for maybe Flock or Yokapon or whatever. But they're all universally just evil people. And Eren is the chief monster of all of them, and that's very clearly laid out to all of us.
Eren was doing something that had to be done. After all, our characters did not provide alternative options, and Eren seemed to be the only competent character at the time. Another thing that is worth a mention is Historia race. Now, personally, I didn't see them being together or anything like it, but I can relate to the idea that Historia's pregnancy was leading to nativism theme and would tie up nicely with Eren's conclusion. It would also make Eren's motivations more understandable, since he would be fighting for his family and not for—
Well, here's the thing, and I'm glad he brought this up. People keep saying, oh, guys, I'm not clowning you guys, because I thought the same thing. It's like, oh, it'd be much more motivating for him if he was not fighting for not only for his country and his friends, but for family. And I have distinct memories thinking this exact thing. I thought it was going to be with the story number one. I thought he was to follow number one. Number two, I have distinct memories. I know exactly what I was doing. I can envision it right now in 4K. Where I was like, yeah, I mean, Eren. I was questioning Eren's morale. I'm like, he's doing this for his country, for his friends. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of weak. Not weak. No, it was compelling. But the cost benefit analysis. I was like, if he had a kid or a wife, this would be so much more excusable. Here's the problem, though. Everyone crying, oh, he should have been the father. He should have been the father. He should have been the father. Well, he was romantically interested in Mikasa, and if you look at 139, he says he only knows if the result of Mikasa's choice. Meaning, he doesn't know if he's going to die, he doesn't know what's going to happen to Parody, he's going to know what happened to him, he's going to happen to his friends, he knows Mikasa's going to survive, and of course we already know about, no, I don't want that, so we know he has a romantic interest in Mikasa. So to me, I was happy. Right? I was happy. See, I took the principle of the Eren. The reason why I want Eren to be the father, I took the principle of that and I just transferred it over to Mikasa. You guys wanted Historia because you didn't like Mikasa. You just didn't like Mikasa. You liked the story, you didn't like Mikasa, so he can't be with Mikasa. You didn't want him to be a sip, right? That's why Historia is like a trophy to Eren in the Hope Chat community. Broad strokes. Because I'm not gonna get into it, but he's not a simp in that storyline. So if you're so concerned about him having a family and him doing it for his wife, Well, then, there you go. Mikasa's right there. And that's why I say Mikasa was his top priority. Not his friends, not Parody. His top priority, as revealed in 139, was Mikasa. Right? So, again, I don't understand the bickering and complaining from, I don't know what Bella's going to say, but from any person who wanted this Eren to be the father, for him to have a family, but were whining about Eren caring about a woman in 139. Let's continue.
For this abstract idea of freedom. This is also partly Isayama's fault for saying stuff like, the last panel is about surpassing your father, which made many people believe that something will happen related to Historia and her baby. Obviously, this isn't.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the whole, I wish he never leaked that and the whole 2018 leak, I wish that never happened, because it gave, I mean, I'm the most rabid ending defender out here, hopefully I can claim that title, and even I was like, oh great, Eren's going to complete the rumbling, he's going to go back, and he's going to hold his baby, he's going to say you're free. Yeah, I know, I sound like Tanfolk right now. I thought all these things, right? Because, I mean, you can, the dots are there to connect. So yeah, I agree. It's Yama. I don't know why he did that. It was a mistake.
Canon, but these fan theories did manage to make Eren feel special for that specific fandom. And
yeah, and that's, you know, I'm going to continue this.
Way describes Eren's character even if his character was bending towards their version of Yeager's headcanon. I will talk more about Isayama in interviews later, but for now I have described why people liked Eren even if it was for the wrong reasons. So now...
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, and again, I was disappointed at first with the baby reveal. Of course, I didn't understand the story, and I kept my mouth shut until I did, but I was disappointed with the baby thing. Again, until I understood the story. But, yeah, I mean, this is another problem. I'm so glad we're having this conversation right now. But, yeah, people had headcanons. They said, oh, Eren's going to come back with his story, hold his baby, say you're free to him. Oh, Eren's the father. They had all these freaking headcanons. And then the theories were not true. They thought... They were angry, not because the story was bad or anything. They were just angry because their theories were bad, and then they were angry about other things, just cascaded into another anime haters. And for the anime watchers who are watching this, you have to remember that people were reading month from month, so they were thinking for months that Eren was the father, and then it was revealed to not to be. If you're an anime watcher in the future or otherwise, you're thinking he's a father for maybe 2-3 days, depending on how you watch it, and then he's not the father. It's not that big of a blow, but you're hoping, praying he's the father, like I was and other people were, for months, and then he wasn't. I mean, that's another reason why people didn't like Eren's character.
Now, after describing the rise of Eren's character and his importance, and why he was so interesting for the people, even if the perception wasn't particularly correct, it did manage to make many people surprisingly enjoy Eren's character for different reasons. Yeah, so, again, it was only just safe to assume that his...
Again, that's... you said it right there. People like Eren's character for the wrong reasons. And they got what they deserved.
His conclusion will be great. Right?
No, I don't want that. Mikasa finding another man. I want... He's not... I... This be... Like tell me the... I honest... Was of its soul. Parody.
Great.
What? Never go.
Was exactly ruined.
Eren's downfall.
When it comes to deciding how Eren was exactly ruined, I think the biggest issue was circle jerking his character, where basically Eren was praised or rather acknowledged a bit too much for his actions, which creates problems for characters like Armin who were purposely downgraded because no one can be competent in the story but Eren. It was clearly a flaw which arose right from War for Paradise arc. Surprisingly, most people think that only chapter 139 had problems, and I will get into 139 very soon.
Yeah, I always found it hilarious. Like, before, again, I stayed away. I was not part of the fandom before I started my channel. And I started my channel only after I understood the story. And, yeah. I had no idea what people didn't like about the ending, because they were saying, oh, 139 was bad. So it's like, okay, so 138, 137, 136, 135, 134, that was all fine, and then 139 was bad? So it was kind of confusing for the first few months for people, you know, with the whole chapter being bad by itself. So I see what Bill is saying. That he's saying, well, it's not just 139; it goes back farther, which would make sense. That would actually make if 139 actually was a retcon, it would make sense that it would not come out of nowhere. It would be led up to, right?
But before that, I think it's important to understand that Eren as a character had issues before chapter 139. Truth to be told, Eren was a growing issue since he escaped from Marley and broke down learning about Sasha's death.
I'm not nodding because I agree, I'm just nodding because I understand what he's saying.
There was a different person in the Marley arc, and then literally the next chapter he has changed completely. This wasn't a natural character shift in personality, although that's justifiable in a way, because the point was that Eren forced himself to believe his own lies, like there was truly no other way. And he should push away his friends because Sasha made him both break down and suffer inside, forcing him to constantly confront his own ideals and what really matters to him, as well as making him denying his own hypocrisy. The more he keeps avoiding his friends, the more likely they would have died, and so on. That's why you have this scene in the mirror where he repeats his famous catchphrase. He is forcing himself to believe his own illusions. Surprisingly, a lot of people took that moment as Eren being a genuine person who was true to himself. And whilst many people have no problems with that scene, unfortunately I do have it. My issue is that this is not interesting because it only makes Eren a mystery box, and it downgraded Eren's development from the Marley arc. He was a cold.
Box? I mean, what? I don't understand. You're upset because he's a mystery? Isn't that interesting and compelling? I don't understand that. It's strange criticism.
Calculative person who wouldn't succumb to his rage like he used to do before. That was clearly an amazing character progression, and in the War for Paradise arc, he reverted back. Even worse, he has become a more toxic version of his past self. That's why this is a massive problem. His personality since the Marley.
Well, I mean, again, remember, again, I know I'm talking about a whole bunch of things, and that's why Eren's such a great character, he's so layered and complex. But another thing about Eren's character is that he stayed the same, right? That's the thing with 123, right? And if you're an anime watcher, it's 130. Sorry, not 130, 87. But episode 87. So, you're saying, oh, he developed, but he stayed the same, so it's bad. Well, no, he definitely developed. He's definitely not the same person he was in season 1. I mean, even Mikasa's developed by this point, so all the characters developed, more or less, from season 1. And he did put aside that rage and that understanding, because I mean the whole refugee camp thing proves it, right? He's not the same rage-filled person he was before, thinking everything's bad, being black and white. But Eren was fundamentally the same person. He was a person who was just discontent, would not allow himself to be happy. But see, no one wants to accept that part of Eren, so we're just not going to say that. He was a person who was discontent, would not allow himself to be happy, had a vehicle for happiness, Mikasa, which he refused to acknowledge. Thus, again, we're talking about the negative character progression, thus corrupting him further and further and further and further until he got to this point, War for Parity. And 131 is kind of scary, actually, if you really, really think about the lines of 131. Sorry, 133. Where if you look what he's actually saying, not his words, what he's actually saying, he's essentially saying, I have reached the point of no return. My flaws have corrupted me to the point where the only way to stop me from continuing to spiral downward is to stop me from breathing. That's essentially what he's saying in 133. And you'll notice, again, his eyes are shaded, he's a kid, he's on the puppet strings. Again, you can say it's head canon, but the eyes being shaded, that's definitely not head canon. So, that's what he's actually saying. Because he knows the rumbling's bad. He regrets the rumbling. The rumbling brings him no joy, and it doesn't bring him any happiness. But he can't stop doing it because his nature is compelling him to do so. And the only way for him to stop is to be killed. Right? So, and he's the same person back. This is the person who's standing in front of you in 133 is the same person in season 1, saying he refuses to live like a caged animal. He wants to have the ideal, perfect life, no bounds, no restrictions, nothing. He wants to be completely free Even though he can live, and that's the whole thing about the season, the early parts of season 1. That's a big theme, is that they can survive, they can live inside the walls. They're not like gonna die. They just can't have things like meat. They can't explore. They can't do whatever. And Eren just refuses to compromise on anything, which is just like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Don't compromise. Take your rights back. But if he refuses to compromise on anything, he's going to be an unhappy person. Because, well, even if he leaves the walls, we know his life's not going to be perfect. Which means, but given his nature, he's not going to want to compromise, meaning he's going to be more discontent as time goes on. So you see what I mean by he's the same character. And you see what I mean why it's not bad that he's the same character, right? Again, it's like Wolf. He has a negative character progression arc. But he's also the same, but he's also growth. It's a lot of things going on at the same time. Of course, we don't understand how that works, right? Like, Walt wasn't a different person. I mean, he was, but he wasn't a different person. He was in a different person between, the first episodes and the latter episodes, but he also did change and develop in a way. You see what I mean? I hope you understand and see what I mean. But yeah, that's why this is not a bad thing at all. And I see what he's saying, but it's really not. The whole thing about Eren's character is that, again, he's supposed to be the same person.
Felt unexplored, not fleshed out to the full potential. And instead of focusing more on his characteristics and newfound resolve, Eren just became a mystery box. And I believe this is truly the first mistake that Isayama made with Eren's character.
1-dimensional characterization.
Secondly, a clear mistake comes from the fact that since the Marley Arc, Eren's character interactions were mainly extremely one-note and basic to the bone. What I mean by that is Eren's lack of dialogue in the story and him only repeating his famous catchphrases, which happens to be really...
Okay, that is a good criticism. Again, that's good. I'll take that. That's pretty good criticism.
...to his idea of freedom. And that felt so boring for the reader to constantly get this treatment of his character. The only good moments from Eren always would come from his flashbacks, like in chapter 131 or 123, where we could explore how Eren got to that point. And after the War for Paradise arc, Eren had only 2 chapters worth of dialogue, which were absolutely atrocious. Of course, I'm referring to chapters 133 and 139. In chapter 133, he just literally contradicted himself intentionally within the same lines of dialogue.
Well, that's the thing. Like, again, this is the whole begging the question thing I'm talking about. Oh, he contradicted himself. No, he said a half-truth that leaves something to be desired because he's lying. So you have to figure out what his true intentions were. Again, like the table scene, which is why again I say War for Paradise wasn't boring. But the table scene has the subtext of, well, we all know this is fake. We all know he's lying right now. So why is he lying, right? 133. Okay, he's making no sense right now. He's saying he values their freedom. Well, he's implying he values their freedom, but he had no problem putting them in jail. I believe it was twice he put them in jail, actually. And on top of that, why does he value Pete and Gabby's freedom? Just at a base level. So what's going on here, right? So, and then, the answer gets revealed later. That's the point of these sort of things, right? It's like, again, the saltwater fish thing. It's like, well, not the saltwater fish thing, but Ugo Picasso and Reiner grabs a can. Or Ymir grabs a can and Reiner says, how'd you read that? It's not bad that we don't know what it is. It's just there. It's leads something to be desired. It's a mystery, and we're going to figure out later why. It's not contradictory to anything, right? I mean, it was contradictory because it was a saltwater fish. Herring was a saltwater fish. And so how did she get a saltwater fish in Ugo Castle? It's a contradiction, right? And that's why I waited. See, this right here is why I waited till May of 2022 to start my channel. Because of stuff like this. Because I would have rightfully said, this makes no sense. This is ridiculous. Eren's poorly written. Because it doesn't make any sense. But if you wait until the story is completed, then, oh, now I see why I said that 133. So let's continue.
Clearly said he will not bet on Paradise's future, yet he did it anyway. And to be honest, at first it was okay.
I mean, he didn't really bet, per se. Again, he did destroy all the planes, all the ships, their howitzers, their guns, their soldiers. He killed a lot of people. I mean, he didn't really bet. It's like the Bill Gates meme where he has that giant paddle with the ball, playing ping pong. It's kind of like that. That's sort of his bet. Like, hey, Armin, hit this across, and he has the big paddle. That's pretty much exactly what happened.
It would showcase that
Again, broad strokes, people. Don't quote me on that.
Eren is contradicting himself as a person. But then chapter 139 shows us that Eren had no reason to do this. And even Historia's pregnancy was pointless. We could argue that
Well, it wasn't pointless, but we're not going to get into that.
perhaps he wouldn't want her to replace Zeke and make Levi kill her. But now, we would get into fanfictions with edgy writing. Oh, wait a minute! Anyway, the point I'm trying to get across is that Eren's dialogue and actions were offensive to Attack on Titan fanbase. And it felt like we were reading Attack on our brain cells. The story felt so rushed and unpolished, and we could see that in the best way through Eren himself. And finally, chapter 139 is the clear issue of Eren's character's conclusion and the ending of the story as well.
Chapter 139.
As I mentioned before, the biggest issue within the story was Eren's circle jerking. And unfortunately, chapter 139 delivered the worst imaginable version of this circle jerking. We got an ending that indirectly justified Eren's actions and made the message to be basically that Eren should have rumbled all the way in. Let me clarify myself here.
What?
This isn't what Isayama wanted to do, but due to his lack of abilities to express these themes, the
Okay. Before we move any further, I will say, objectively speaking, yes. I mean, we had three major themes going on in 139. It was love, freedom, and cycle of odds, right? We had those three things, and again, two of the lovers were on a plot twist. The whole Eren Mika thing, to me, was a plot twist. I mean, maybe it wasn't. I asked my fans this a while ago. They said it wasn't a plot twist. I still think it was a plot twist. But I'm sure Colin people that surprised. The whole Ymir left King first, and that was a surprise. So we had three major themes. Two of them on plot twist. Two subcategory. Two plot twists for one. Then we had the other two themes going on at the same time. And it was a lot. And this Isayama even said he struggled with writing so many themes. I found a perfect analogy for this, and I know I'm famous for my excellent analogies that are completely false, but I found a great analogy for this, and it's that 139, reading, again, because I read the Tokuban, because it was missing 8 pages. The chapter release was missing 8 pages, so I read the Tokuban. And I was like reading it, it's like, okay, it was like moving like a bullet train. And then it just slammed on the brakes, just abruptly ended. It didn't really, conclude everything properly. It was like we were just going. I was like, how is this going to get wrapped up? When is this going to get wrapped up? And then just stopped. Another good example would be like if, I don't go to public school, so I can't use that. But if you're like listening to, I guess I'll use it, like a lecture or a podcast or a YouTube video, you can sort of see when the person is like winding down to stop talking to close the conversation. But imagine if like someone wasn't doing the wind down, they just ended the conversation. It was sort of like that. It was weird. And so I agree with Vela on this one. Like the themes, I mean, it was a lot to handle. I think Isayama. And with that, this video has gone on long enough. I will do a part 2. But this little adventure is gonna have to end. So stick around for the next part if you liked it, and we will be covering the second half of this. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.